us from two different corners of the world, one from Bangalore and other from Cambridge. I am extremely excited to welcome you all on the inauguration of this new cohort of Vigyanshala's program, Chief STEM, which we also call Kalpana. Kalpana means imagination in Hindi. And we hope that this community that we are building will create a platform for aspiring young aspiring girls out there who are pursuing science and engineering. And I couldn't be happier and more excited to have this new year begin with this excitement, and which is like our largest cohort of the program, Kalpana. We have about 2,000 plus students from different states across India. And for the first time, we have entered institutional partnership with Telangana Social Welfare Residential Colleges and Telangana Tribal Welfare Residential Colleges, where we are bringing girls from the remotest parts of Telangana, from the communities which have never had their voices at the forefront of science, now coming into shaping and nurturing their dreams towards building the future scientists and innovators of India. At the same time, our cohort presently represents about 24 Indian states, and we have students all the way from IITs, NITs. IITs are Indian Institute of Technology, NITs are National Institute of Technology, and Indian Institute of Science Education Research, as well as remote universities such as Kumaon University in Uttarakhand and Jammu University, and several other colleges across the northeast, south, and west of India. And I am so excited that for me, 2023 is beginning at such a high note, and I get to be part of such amazing, incredible journeys that will shape the future of humanity with the science that they will do. And so to this end, I'm extremely grateful to our guest today. Without taking much time, a few bits about how program Kalpana has been working towards nurturing the next generation of leaders in science. We work with our girls on their long-term career and vision clarity. We connect them to global mentors and role models such as yourselves. And we also work on their career readiness through our specially designed mentoring curriculum. And all of this is done completely online. And because we run this program online, we are able to bring our girls the best of global mentors and role models, like our esteemed guest today. So in the past 2 years of its existence, program Kalpana has reached about 1,200 girls from India and about 50 international girls from Cameroon, South Africa, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, and Australia. And we are constantly talking to international partners and expanding and sharing knowledge with them so that they can run different versions of the programs in their community. And together we create an ecosystem where a girl sitting in a remote village in Uttarakhand or Telangana in India can now collaborate with a girl sitting in United Kingdom or US or Africa. And together they design solutions that will shape a better world, a climate, and mitigate some of the most pressing challenges of our time, such as the climate change or any new disease or pandemic that may come humanity's way. So to this end, I am extremely grateful to the 200 plus mentors who have contributed their time to this program in the last 2 years. And I'm looking forward to bringing many more such interesting mentors and volunteers and leaders such as our today's guest to this program. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining here. Thank you, Jaya. Thank you, Anna, for giving us your precious time. I would like to now hand over to my colleague, Anushila, who will introduce the speakers, and we'll take the program from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Darshana.
Anushila, your video is very blurred. Is it the internet or is it the camera? Can you just try to?
The background is blurred. I can unblur the background.
Your video quality is really bad compared to what it is usually. So I don't know, is it the light in the background or something? I don't know. But
is it better now?
slightly better, I would say. But our usual meetings are much better than much better visibility than this. Maybe it has to do with the internet strength.
Maybe because everybody else is shining too much today, so I'm just blurred.
But go ahead, Anushila. Vijay, can you mute everybody, please?
Okay. Thanks, Vijay.
Anushila, just one sec. I forgot to introduce you. So Anushila is our lead of program development, program and curriculum development. And Anushila is a PhD in biochemistry from sunny Buffalo, State University of New York, Buffalo in the United States of America. And she was one of the mentors with the past cohort of Kalpana and eventually decided to join us in this mission. So Vigyanshala at its core is run by 3 scientists from different parts of the world who got trained in different sciences and are now working together.
Rachana, you are muted.
To shape the way our future generations will pursue their ambitions and careers. So thank you, Anushila. Please go ahead. Sorry that I missed out earlier.
No worries. No worries. Thank you, Darshana, for the kind introduction. And a very warm welcome to all the students and most importantly, our guests for today's evening. Jaya Jagadeesh and Professor Anna Philpott. I would like to introduce both of you before your presentations begin, and I will keep the introduction very short because anything I say is not enough, and we are all super excited to hear about your journey, so we won't waste time on me blabbering much. Hello everyone. Welcome to the second incubation session of Kalpana She for STEM. Today is the inauguration of our Incubator 2 program. We have two eminent guests with us. Jaya Jagadeesh, who is the country head and senior vice president of AMD India. She is the winner of many prestigious awards, including Rising Woman of Influence, awarded by Global Semiconductor Alliance in the year 2020. As the country head, Jayaji is responsible for AMD's R&D workout in India, where she focuses on fostering a culture of innovation, inclusiveness, and takes care of corporate responsibility at the company's India Development Center. One of the things that I really liked about her bio is someone asked her if being a woman leader matters, and she mentioned that she wants to see a future where there is no such term as women leaders, but just leaders. So thank you, Jayaji, for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing your journey. Our other eminent guest who is joining us today from University of Cambridge, Dr. Anna Philpott. Dr. Anna Philpott is a professor of cancer and developmental biology. She is a member of the Cambridge Stem Cell Institute and a fellow of Clare College. Dr. Philpott is the head of School of Biological Sciences at Cambridge. She has actually received her PhD from Cambridge. Then she got her postdoctoral training at Massachusetts General Hospital, Cancer Center in Boston, and Harvard Medical School before she came back to Cambridge in 1998 to start her own lab. So thank you, Dr. Philpott, again for joining us today. I would now like to request Jayaji to share her journey, and once that is done, I would go to Dr. Philpott to share her journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashita.
So who goes first? You go first.
Jaya? Yes.
Jayaji goes first.
Okay.
Just give me a sec. I'm just sharing my PPT. Are you able to see what I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm audible. You're able to see me and my PPT, correct?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. What an amazing initiative. Young women from around the world coming together for an event like this. I mean, this is truly amazing. Thanks to our technology, and also to some extent thanks to COVID, where we've all gotten used to this, remote calling and working. I'd like to start by complimenting and congratulating the organizers and volunteers for this amazing initiative. It's not easy to take your time out for something as noble as this. We all get so busy with our day-to-day work. It's amazing to see the kind of volunteer work that happens here. You truly are my heroes. As I was contemplating today on my journey, I've had a career spanning over 25 years in the semiconductor industry. And I was looking back and kind of reflecting on what should I really focus on? What is it? What are those one or two things that have really made a difference for me in keeping up with my career and in succeeding as a professional? There are many attributes that you need, passion, perseverance, and you can go on. But there is one thing in my journey that I felt was hugely useful in my growth and success, which is the way I approached the challenges in life. As a career woman, as a wife, as a mother, we all have many challenges that are thrown at us. So it's really our response to these challenges that determine how successful you are and how you approach these challenges, whether you run away from those, you hide from those, or sorry, was there a question?
I think there's some background noise. Vijay, can you mute everyone?
Yes, guaranteed. Yes, please continue. This is time.
Okay. So it's really about the challenges and how you take that to mold your life or your career. So I thought I'll focus on some of the challenges that I have encountered as a professional and what was my approach and how did those challenges really mold me and help me in my career progression. So want to give a little bit of my personal background. I come from a middle class family, only child for my parents. And I was taught right from my childhood that there's no replacement for hard work and education. Both of these are very, very important for you to succeed in life. Growing up, I was a very shy, docile, very quiet child. This probably worried my dad to a large extent. He probably felt I'll not be able to face the world. So he kept, all my bedtime stories were of, Jhansi Rani, the Queen warriors, how they faced challenges in life. I don't know. He just would tell me only those things. And when I joined school, there were two things I was told by my dad. Don't ever come home crying if someone beats you up, right? So either hit back, give it back to them in some way. Don't come home and complain and whine. And the second thing was, if you've not committed a mistake, don't accept. No matter how hard the world gets to you, don't just accept. If you've not done anything wrong, challenge that. So somewhere, in my young mind, these two actually had a pretty large imprint. So I still remember an episode in kindergarten. I was a kindergartner, and I was sitting next to my very close friend, and both of us were quite naughty at school. So for some reason, my pencil dropped to the ground, and I had to kind of go under the bench to pick it up. And my best friend, of course, wanted to help me immediately. She also went under the bench with me. And the teacher saw us kind of disappear. And suddenly she pulled me up and said, "What are you up to? Why are you hiding under the bench? So stand up on the bench right now." So I tried to defend myself. I said, "I have not done anything wrong, ma'am. I will not stand on the bench," because I was only searching for my pencil. So this kind of standoff went on for almost 10 minutes. And I still remember I was scared internally, but I did not want to give up. I did not want to take that punishment because I strongly believed I had not done anything wrong. Luckily for me, the bell rang after 5 or 10 minutes, and we all ran out, and it was a forgotten episode. But now, when thinking back, I think it really gave me that courage and to stand up for myself at a very young age. So as I continued, I took up STEM, which was honestly a no-brainer because nothing else was interesting to me. I mean, but for science, I was very determined to be a science student, and I was interested in learning. It kind of helped cater to my curiosity. And when I passed out of 12th as a science student, this was in late 80s. And the options were not that many. Either you have to, you're good in studies and you kind of score well in your 12th, then you either choose to become a doctor or an engineer. And of course, for me, my natural choice was engineering because I looked at engineering as a solution provider to the world's problems. And of course, the thought of blood and hospitals really scared me. So I kind of ran away from it. But the society, India was just then waking up to women in engineering. It was not a very common thing. And even in disciplines like computer science and electronics, we were hardly 15% or 20% women. So immediately, and unfortunately, I had also secured a seat in medical. So I could have become a doctor too. But I was bent on, my passion was to be an engineer, and that's what I wanted to. But the kind of pressure that was there on me, both from family, extended family, including my college professors, everybody thought I'll make an amazing doctor and I'm making a wrong career choice getting into engineering. There again, stereotyping and typecasting was prevalent. And, I had to argue at length saying why I'm born to be an engineer kind of a thing. And I did not change my mind in spite of all the pressures. I did move on to get my engineering undergrad degree in electronics and communications from BMS College of Engineering. So as I passed out of engineering, I wanted to study further. Of course, for my parents, sending me anywhere else, alone was not even a question they would consider. So I had to get married and then find my way to further education. So I got married. My husband was then in US pursuing his master's. He's also an engineer. So I followed my husband to USA, and I joined University of Texas at Dallas to pursue my master's in electrical engineering. So during the last semester, I was also expecting my first child, and it was challenging. I mean, those long hours in the lab and, going back and forth from college to the campus, it was not easy. But again, this was something I loved doing. This was something I was passionate about, so I continued. And when I joined AMD, which was my first job after I finished my master's, I was home with my little girl for a year, and then I joined Advanced Micro Devices. Of course, having a young child, a little one at home, and managing a demanding career is of course not easy. A lot of challenges. Again, finally, it's not the challenges that win, it's your passion that wins. I mean, when you love something, when you love to, pursue something, you don't give it up. You don't give up because there are short-term challenges. You always have your focus on your goal and on your end goal. And that's what really happened to me. I don't think I gave it so much thought and planning. It was something that I couldn't have imagined myself not being a professional, engineering professional. And of course, I couldn't have imagined myself not being a great mother. So this was a balance that I had to create for myself. Of course, it involved crazy things like, shifts, work shifts from 4 a.m. to 12 noon, driving 100 miles each way for my first job, just to come home to my baby. So these were all things that were extremely challenging, but honestly did not dissuade me or discourage me from pursuing, my work. It was always a balancing act that I chose to do. After about 10 years of work experience in the US, we decided to come back to India, mainly so we could actually we could have our kids. I have 2 kids, a daughter and a son. We wanted them to spend some of their growing years with extended family, getting to know the India culture and other things. So we moved back in 2005, and that was when I joined AMD India. India was again, there were the IT and the semiconductor industry had started to grow. The IT was booming, and there were many management opportunities, but there weren't that many women in the mid-management. I was probably one of the very few women in the management. So that again led to some challenges. Of course, the employees were not used to being managed by a woman. Many of them felt it was derogatory to report into a woman without even giving you a chance, right? They would judge you based on your gender. So it was pretty prevalent. Luckily for me, I was oblivious of this whole bias or thoughts that my employees were having because this was my first job in India. I had never worked before. I was only a student. And my work experience was in the US, where a lot of this is not as prevalent. A lot of it is masked because of the awareness. India, somehow I had to kind of go through some of these challenges, but it helped to be myself without being ignorant about what others are feeling about me being a woman. It helped me be myself and bring out my strengths and play to my strengths. And that's when things started to change. People who initially were skeptical about reporting to me soon found out I was no different than one of them. I was truly an engineer at heart and passionate about my job, just like that. And I had my style of management, like how different men have different styles. I mean, I had my style. So very soon, as they saw the value of the leadership, things aligned. So initially, it may turn out to be challenging. It may turn out to seem to be like a hopeless situation, but you stick to your path. You stick to your strength. You stick to your, belief in doing the right thing, and things will align. And finally, today I lead a team of 7,000 engineers at AMD as the country head. And I couldn't have asked for a better environment in the corporate for a woman to thrive and grow. So July 17th, 2017, it's a day I can't forget easily. I was scheduled for my annual medical checkup. And that morning, as I was getting ready to go for my tests to the hospital, I got a call from my boss who was in California. And he said, Jaya, you're being promoted to corporate vice president. And congratulations. It's a highly deserved, very well deserved. promotion and a level. I was truly happy because corporate vice president is a big level at AMD, and there weren't. I was the first woman in Asia to be promoted. It was a big promotion, and there weren't that many corporate vice presidents in AMD at that time. So it was a big thing, but somehow this whole thing of getting my tests done, it did not really sink in, and I just left to the hospital. And 3 hours later, unfortunately, I was holding a report that diagnosed a tumor near my colon, and it was cancerous. So life had thrown a curveball at me, totally unexpected, something so.
We lost.
I think we lost her.
I think she'll join back. Let's give her a minute.
Vijay, I hope people are not throwing people out from the meeting. I hope that's not happening because it was pretty unexpected.
No, that can't happen.
It's probably a connection issue.
She can't leave at that point in the story. That would be terrible.
Yes.
We won't let her.
No, no.
For fellows who are asking about the Kalpana Fellowship and what do we do through this program, we conducted open hour sessions for that. So you will get the recording, so you can listen to that to understand what the fellowship offers. And also we have videos in the app that will explain to you what Kalpana means. So please hold on.
No, Jaya, we can't hear you. Can you join? Are you joining back? Yeah. No worries. No. Don't worry. We are waiting. Just joining back. She's just joining back.
Okay.
She just got thrown out. That's what we expected, right?
Yeah, I also felt.
Am I audible now?
Yes.
We are so sorry. We lost you at a very critical point in the story.
So I don't know where did you lose me? Where should I start now?
So we're trying to sort this to see if there's any issues.
So you were saying you were diagnosed with a tumor 3 hours later. Yeah.
Yeah,
your colon.
So that was my last slide. So I'll continue on that. Yeah, I was diagnosed with cancer, colorectal cancer. And then again, science came to my rescue. I started reading about the disease, reading about what affects, what changes I should make in my life to kind of make sure I'm healthy. So there was a lot of learning, lot of introspection, lot of things that I learned along the way. I went through the treatment and recently celebrated the 5-year milestone as a cancer survivor, which is very important. But honestly, this again taught me there's no challenge in life that cannot be converted to an opportunity. Today, it's a cliche, it's probably a cliched statement, but I'm a much better human being, a much better, much more aware as an individual post my cancer.
Jaya, you may need to reshare your slides because we've.
Yeah, actually, that was my last slide.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
I mean, if people have seen it, it's fine. I can.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So overall, I think, life has been great. It's constantly been challenging, but also evolving. So I just want to end this talk by giving maybe 3 takeaways for you guys. Never be afraid of challenges. They're truly opportunities that will help you grow or evolve. And second one, don't give up your long-term aspirations to short-term challenges. We all have challenges, and the men have challenges too. Many times I've seen, I have had friends and colleagues where I've known the struggles that it takes for them to build a great career. So challenges are not just what women have, but they're different. We face different type of challenges, but don't give up your long-term aspirations for short-term challenges. And develop a strong intent and will in pursuing your passion. That's absolutely important. There's a saying in Sanskrit, it says, Yat bhavam tad bhavati. What you think, what you dream, that's what is going to be you, right? That's what will happen. So dream big, think big. Don't lose sight of the bigger picture of life and pursue your passion with great energy and enthusiasm, and you will be successful. With that, thank you so much for this opportunity, for making me a part of your journey. Loved sharing my journey with you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. And it's really good for the girls to see that a person who has reached such a leadership role did face many challenges and did not give up, and being resilient in your career and being passionate about your career is one of the most important things. And if you choose to do something that you love, that becomes way easier than if you choose to do something that someone else asks you to do. And we are also constantly sharing the view that if you can see it, if you dream it, you can be it. So thank you, Jayaji, for again pointing that out. I would now like to request Dr. Philpott to share her journey with us. And I think you can share your slides.
Oh, actually, I don't have any slides. I'm just going to do it off the cuff. I was interested to listen to Jaya, how resonant, even though our careers have been very different, how resonant the sentiments she said were. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me. I was delighted to be in India just before Christmas, where I met Dashna. And this Women in Science is a passion of mine. I've been very active in promoting women in science in Cambridge, and I think that maybe there's an even bigger mountain to climb in India from what I've gathered. But climb it we will, because we really need all the talents to contribute to science. I mean, the world is facing some enormous challenges. And we need lots of different perspectives and all the best brains, and we can't just use 50% of the world's best brains, because we're definitely going to need all of them, I think. So I was sent a few slide back templates about the things that I should talk about. So I'm just going to go through those and then highlight some of the lessons I've learned and the lessons that I'd like you to learn at this stage in your career. So I was brought up in South London, pretty middle class household. I was very interested in ballet when I was growing up, passionate about ballet, did lots of ballet. To be entirely honest, I wasn't very good at it. And ballet is not one of those things that you could end up doing if it turns out that you're passionate about it, but you're just not very good at it. So I did it. At the same time, I was a good scientist. So once I had given up my dream of being a ballet dancer, I wanted to be a scientist because science is just really interesting. And I was good at it. And also I like the fact that being a scientist sort of enables you to look at the world in a sort of analytical, practical, sensible way, rather than a sort of emotional and way. I like to take questions and just really understand what's the crux of the problem and how could we break it down and solve it. And I think that we could do with many more scientists in public life, so in politics and all of those kind of areas. So I think it's not like you train and become a scientist or you lose all of your ability to think analytically when you go off into your career in business or finance or governance or something like that. I think the more scientists we can train and send them out into those different areas, the better we will be as a society. I went to an all-girls school, which looking back on it, I think was probably quite important for my development as a scientist, because I have heard that mixed schools, girls can be a little bit drowned out in science classes. I don't know, because I went to an all-girls school, but I think that probably turned out to be a good thing. And my dad had a PhD. He came from a very working class background. He was actually he was a soldier in the Second World War, where he served in India, in fact, which was interesting because I have had a lifelong interest in India. I've been there 5 times on holiday. I love India. And I think some of it came from the stories my dad used to tell me when I was young. So he was an engineer, but he had a PhD. And so it wasn't unheard of in my family to think that, you know, one might want to do a PhD. So I went off I was lucky enough to go to get into Cambridge to do natural sciences, which is a course where you can mix physical sciences and biological sciences. So I did chemistry and biology in the first year. And I arrived and I thought that it was Cambridge, everyone's going to be so much cleverer than me and better than me. And that thought persisted all the way until I did my first year exams, when it turned out I did really well in my first year exams. And it turned out that then I discovered not everybody else was better than me and cleverer than me, but I hadn't realised until that point where I actually had some empirical, sort of evidence that wasn't the case. So I think confidence is incredibly important. And I was interested in Jaya's story because I get to the end of my first year as a biological scientist and I did pretty well. And they were all going to me, why don't you switch to medicine? Why don't you become a doctor? And I was like, because I don't want to treat patients and I like being a scientist. And so being a doctor is the pinnacle of everybody's aspirations. It wasn't the pinnacle of my aspirations, even though I always knew that I wanted to do medical research. But you can do good medical research as a scientist, and in many ways better medical research is different medical research. So I did my undergraduate degree at Cambridge. An incident, I've been asked about my CV of challenges and failures. And so one of the failures I had was in Cambridge, you apply to different colleges, but if you don't get into your first choice college, another college might take you. And I applied to Christ's College, Cambridge, but I got rejected. But I was taken by Selwyn College, Cambridge. But it turned out my future husband also applied to Christ's College, Cambridge, and he also got rejected and taken by Selwyn College. So that's the sort of where failure actually ends up working out well for me. So that was like fate brought us together, I think. And then I stayed on in Cambridge to do a PhD. But after that, I went to America to do a postdoc. And that was really a life-changing experience for me, not just because the very high quality of the science, but also it's life-changing living abroad. And I would encourage you to try and live abroad at some point during your life. It just completely changes your perspective on things. I actually think the living abroad was very important for me. But I also, when I was younger, and even now before COVID, I spent a lot of my free time backpacking around Asia and Africa and South America. And that was also very important for my personal development because it gave me a confidence that I would be all right, whatever happened. Nothing bad. Well, I mean, bad-ish things happened. I'm sure I got sick a lot, but nothing really bad happened to me. And it gave me a sort of inner strength that I understood that I would probably be able to use my own wits about me to survive in any sort of adverse situation, because this wasn't in the days of the internet where you'd go on booking.com or whatever. I'd turn up in somewhere like Kenya or indeed India or with nothing booked or anything, just with my airfare, and then I would spend a few weeks moving around the country, sometimes with a friend and occasionally on my own, and that was really a life-changing experience for me, and it's fostered a love of travel. Anyway, so I'm in the US doing my postdoc. My first postdoc, I didn't particularly like the lab, and so I decided I wanted to stay in Boston, but I didn't want to stay in that lab, so I found another lab and moved to it. So I was there for 6 years, but my then boyfriend, now husband, went out to Boston with me, but he left and came back to the UK after 3 years because he got a position in Cambridge. So we had 3 years of a transatlantic relationship, which always has its own challenges. But then I was incredibly lucky or talented or something. Anyway, I got a job back in Cambridge. I actually object when people go, I was incredibly lucky to get something that I'd worked my entire career to get and was the best qualified person for. So, there's always an element of luck, but actually, you make your own luck by being well placed. So I got a lectureship in Cambridge, started my own research group, and so have progressed up the ranks of academia to be a professor. I was the head of department for a little while, And then they asked me to be the head of school for biological sciences, which is a collection of 9 departments and 5 institutes. And it's a sort of major leadership role in the university. There's 6 heads of school. I'm the only female head of school at the moment. But when people hear CVs like that, they think, oh, you know, it's this linear path. You just go from that and everything is smooth sailing. And it's not like that at all. It's just that's what it looks like from the outside. I mean, I had absolutely a lot of challenges along the way. My postdoc, my first postdoc, I wanted to go to a lab. I didn't get in. I had to go to a different lab. That was the lab that didn't work out very well for me. But so I changed that. And then I ended up in a much better lab with a mentor who transformed my life, who was absolutely just an incredible scientist. So my mentor transformed my life, but I didn't have the greatest time in that lab. It was very, very high pressured, lots of very, very ambitious people. So I can't say that it was the funnest time of my life, but it absolutely changed me. So one lesson from that, I think, is that you don't have to be having absolute, you know, delirious fun at every single stage in your life. You still might be investing in yourself and doing something useful. You shouldn't be miserable. You shouldn't subject yourself to being completely miserable. But sometimes you just should do something because you know it's going to further your career. It's not forever. So don't give up just because you're having short-term challenges, I think, as Jaya said. When I started my own lab, I sometimes had periods where I found it very hard to get grants. And that also can be very soul destroying. But I was fortunate to have a head of department who believed in me and supported me, gave me some sort of money to tide me over those lean times. And that's actually very important, that you have support from people around you who believe in you. But that's earned. That's not usually given freely. So I think it's really important that you seek out. Mentors are good. Mentors sort of give you advice, but sponsors are even better. Sponsors are people that actually take an interest in your career and go out of their way to help you because they believe in you. And so I think it's important to understand that mentors are important. Sponsors are just as important, and to know what the difference is. And those challenging times in my career were stretching, but they didn't break me. And I think that the resilience that Jaya talked about is incredibly important. So I became head of school of biological sciences, and curious, it wasn't actually a job that I applied for because I thought that it was much above the position that I was actually in at the time. And I thought that would be why I wouldn't even have contemplated applying for that job. I don't know whether, I don't know how it was for Jaya, but it just never crossed my mind to apply for that job. But then I was approached to apply for that job. And then when they first approached me, I thought, that's mad. But then over time, I thought, well, why not? Right? You know, they think I can do it. And it turns out that actually I'm really not bad at this job. And I feel that this is probably the thing that I've done the most successfully in my career. And normally the position is for 4 years, and they just asked me to extend it for another 4 years. So I must be doing something right. So that has been a bit of a revelation to me, actually, to understand that I'm a pretty good scientist, but I think I'm an even better scientific leader or academic leader. And so that has sort of opened up all sorts of other things that I might want to do in my future career, because I'm actually a bit younger in this position than the average head of school as well. So that's quite exciting for me. I want to finish with talking about some things that I think are important, and then some life lessons that I've learned. So I think networking is very, very important. I think you need to invest some time in networking. Often those people you're working with are on committees that are evaluating you. And when I say networking, I don't mean sort of doing, being overly, I don't know, the word sucking up would come to mind in Britain. I don't know whether that's a term that's used in India. That's not what I mean. I just mean getting to know people and being open with people. Sometimes it's easy to sort of hang back, but I think it's really important that you're at the table and that people can see you and that you have an opinion, and that you are, because often our male colleagues don't have such a problem with that. But I think that one thing I did when I came back to start my own lab was in seminars for about the first 5 years of my independent career as a university lecturer. I said that whenever I go to a seminar, and I used to go to lots of seminars, I would ask a question. because I think that it had two things. One, it made me concentrate in the seminar so that I wouldn't ask something really stupid, although there's really no such thing as a stupid question unless you're actually on your phone the whole seminar. And the other thing is that people could see that I was engaged, and I think they brought a lot of visibility, that one simple thing. But you've got to be brave to do that, right? Putting yourself out there. I think you need to be open to opportunities. There are lots of things I've done which have seemed as though they might be wasting my time, or and you have to be a little bit careful as a woman in science that they don't stick you on every single thing because they want to have a woman and everything else is full of men. And so you're just there because you're the sort of token woman in inverted commas. But you know, try opportunities, things that you think that you might not normally have wanted to do, opportunities you'll learn things. So the things I want you to take away with this are: be brave, speak up and be visible, like I just said. Choose your partner wisely. It's really, really important. If you would like a career in science, I think you need to make sure that you have those discussions early with your partner, because I've got 2 children, a boy and a girl. The youngest one just went to university this year. You're going to need a partner who's going to support you in your career if you want to get married and have children. And someone who's going to think it's a good idea to invest in yourself. I had a nanny when my children were small, even though I had absolutely no money, because we were paying the nanny out of my salary. It's basically all of my salary, because I knew it was an investment in the future of my career. But the most important thing I want you to take away is failure is a badge of honor. If you have not failed in anything in your career, then you have not tried anything that is difficult enough. So you will learn from failure. The only way failure is a bad thing is if you let it destroy your confidence, in which case it will be a bad thing. But you should try things that are really difficult, fail at half of them. And it's not a case that your life is success or failure. It's you'll do something different, or your path will go a slightly different way, or you'll learn something and you'll try again. And there was an NIH, National Institutes of Health study, where they looked at people's grants when they applied for the first grant in their career. They looked at the career trajectory of people who got their first grant and the people that were just below the cutoff line. And they found the people just below the cutoff line and didn't get that first grant, they were more successful in the long term because they had to try harder and they regrouped and they made things better. Whereas the people just above the line, they didn't do that. And so life is a long journey. So try difficult things and fail often, but don't let it destroy you. Stand up and try again.
Thank you. That was really, really inspiring, Dr. Philpott. Thanks to both of you for sharing all the journeys and key pointers for our fellows. I would now like to open the stage for questions from our fellows. This is the time fellows get to ask you everything. So, Ankita, go ahead.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, everyone on the panel. I just wanted to ask that how do we approach professors across the world or in our country for research internships that are remote internships? How do we get to work with professors on them?
Okay, so can I just make a note here, because all these questions regarding applications and other things we will take on in different sessions, which you would have seen in your calendars as well. So I would say today's questions, please keep it specific to the journeys both the speakers have shared so far. All right.
Okay, sure.
So Ankita, we will have open hours and ask us anything sessions for answering these questions. Okay, and we have different modules in the program to help you prepare for those.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Close to 5 to 6 hours and a lot of live sessions for that. So no worries. Just stick around.
Dipti, go ahead. Dipti?
So first of all, good evening. And I just wanted to ask, Jaya ma'am, ma'am, you told that you were very shy when you were young. And now that you said all these incredible things, it doesn't seem like that. So like, how did you get through it? And definitely Dr. Philpott as well. We're talking about handling a lab and being responsible for it. And your position is something like, it's something really great. So like, how do you handle the stress, the pressures that come along with it? And like, have you been always this confident, or life made you confident? Thank you.
So I can start. So yeah, I was a very shy child, but life teaches you many things, and many times it forces you to build that confidence, where you have to speak up when your ideas are not being heard. Then you find ways. You can't find your voice. You find ways to have people. I mean, express yourself. I mean, even as a young engineer, when I joined AMD, it was difficult for me to speak up or find my voice in a room full of very vocal folks. I mean, most of them were men. So I used to keep waiting for my turn, and that would never come. So I started finding some ways. I would kind of keep my hand raised all the time, okay, till I got my turn to speak. Or I would pre-wire with my ideas saying, hey, I want to talk about this in the meeting. So I kind of found ways. But in general, as you move forward in your career, as you build your confidence, then you'll be able to find your voice. It's not very difficult. You cannot just brand yourself as, I don't like to talk, or I'm a shy person. I mean, just forget about it. When you have an idea, find ways to express yourself. I mean, talking loud, talking most of the time in a meeting is not my idea of getting that, that's not the confidence. Talking relevant. When you talk relevant things, when you bring out points, people will automatically start respecting you. So when you don't talk all the time, but talk relevant and talk sense, people will listen. So I'll say, finding my voice was an important aspect in my journey.
And I would say that I have different confidence levels in different parts of my job. I actually think I'm pretty good head of school. And I sometimes find that I'm in the room thinking, well, actually, I think that I'm right. And I don't often find that in science, actually. Science is much more, I have less confidence in my science, I guess, but it's also more, I might well be wrong, right, in the science. However, my advice to you is fake it. It is important to appear confident in your career. And certainly I'm a lot more confident now, lot more confident now than I was earlier on in my career. When I went through that phase of my career where I was finding it hard to get grants, I did lose a lot of confidence. But you can't project that to other people. If you don't have confidence in yourself, other people won't have confidence in you. And I don't know if you've ever heard of these TED Talks, TED Talks online. It used to be in the top 10. I haven't looked recently. There's one, I think it's called Fake It Till You Make It, about women in leadership roles and their confidence. And I highly recommend you watch it. So, the further you get on and the more confident you are that you're right, the more confidence that you will have. But just shouting doesn't mean that you've got the most important thing to say. So don't mistake loud men in meetings for knowing what they're talking about just because they're saying it loudly.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dipti. That was a very relevant and important question to ask. Anyone else? If not, I have a question. Okay.
Anushula, there are questions in chat also.
Okay, Jyoti, go ahead. I'll take the questions from chat then. Jyoti and then Sneha.
Good evening, ma'am. Actually, my question is to Anna, ma'am. Ma'am, you said you were really interested in medical research, and me too. I am a chemistry major, but I am really interested in medical research. My question is, when you are starting or developing a particular project, then keeping up with the research which is already going on is really difficult. And also, when you are in development phase, it is really sake of your confidence, like I don't know how I'm going to do it. So how should I deal with this condition, and how should I feel confidence about my knowledge in ongoing research? That's it.
Well, I would certainly say that as long as you're putting in the hours, you're reading the papers and doing your research, you don't know any less than anybody else. And your particular thing that you're working on, you know more than anybody else in the world, even though it doesn't feel that way. So confidence is not, someone's not going to give it to you from the outside by saying you should be confident, you know, now. It's something that you has to come from the inside. But if you do the work, there's no reason why you shouldn't be confident. Now, again, you don't, the more lack of confidence you display externally to your supervisors or your fellow scientists, the less they'll have confidence in you. So I would highly recommend that you fake it. And it's like smiling. If you smile, it actually does, you know, there's been studies that show it makes you feel happy. If you act confident, then you will be confident. And the more mature you get, the more confident you'll be. But sometimes your scientific thing will fail, and then you'll just have to do a different project, right? And I often find that my medical colleagues have a huge amount of confidence that they've somehow picked up in medical school, but that doesn't mean that they know more about it than me. They're just more confident.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Neha?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you so much, ma'am. Your stories really inspired me, and I'm sure everybody present here. I have two questions, ma'am. The first is being a woman, when you enter any field of your choice, despite the love for your career, there are certain times when the things don't go your way. So I'd like to know about the mentality or the mental approach, how you deal with such situations and how you keep yourself going. And second question is, as a female, as ma'am mentioned, that we should build networks. So, especially in Indian scenario, what is the best approach for building networks without being, in a way, considered back just because you are a woman? What can be a better approach to build networks in your career field? Thank you.
I think Jaya should answer about, certainly about, well, both, but certainly about the networks.
Yeah. You want to go, Anna? You want to go first?
Well, I mean, you just have to pick yourself up when things go badly. But what I would definitely be careful about which partner you pick, because that can be very, very important. I'm lucky my partner is a scientist, and I think that that's helpful, actually, but it's absolutely not essential. The reason why it's helpful is they understand what it's like to be a scientist. They sometimes understand that your experiments don't finish at 6 o'clock at night and that you've got a late time point, and so they're going to have to do whatever it is that you were going to be doing. But also, hopefully, you have supportive families and networks of friends. And I actually have a little band of female scientists about my age, and we just get together every now and again and we just do a lot of complaining, and that's very cathartic.
Networking and having a group of like-minded people to talk to can be extremely helpful and therapeutic at many times. I mean, but again, you have to work towards it. I mean, your friends or colleagues don't, or your colleagues don't become your friends or overnight, right? I mean, it's something that you have to work towards. And a lot of corporates offer forums for women where they can actually build their networking capabilities and get together as a team, discuss the common problems and challenges, and also set some common goals. So there are, I mean, and there are many platforms today that have emerged even in India, where they encourage young women professionals to share their thoughts and understand what can be done to make this ecosystem much better for women. So some awareness is important to build on.
Thank you, both Anna and Jayaji. Can we take the next question from Blossom?
Hello, everyone. Listening to both of your stories is really inspiring, and it's great. Actually, I have a question for Professor Philpott. Actually, my question is, like, I want to be a scientist too, and I heard that you have started your own lab. So what kind of challenges you have faced to open your own lab? Like, it's a great thing to open your own lab.
I mean, the biggest challenge I think at the time was definitely getting the position in the university. And I was unbelievably lucky or talented or whatever it is to get the job in Cambridge, which was where my husband already had a job, right? So it would have been, it's difficult to be in different places. We spent 3 years in different places, but then, you know, getting the position is only the first step. I don't know how it is in India, but I pretty much when you get your university position, that, you know, you're doing teaching, but you also are supposed to do research, and your job is secure, but you can't do any research unless you get grants. And so I had to get grants, and the first couple of rounds of grants I didn't get, and that was a bit traumatic. And then I had a baby, and that was difficult. But I think that you just have to keep going. But basically, don't let it destroy your confidence, and keep going, and then something is going to give, really. Because I have had colleagues who have just said that they just can't stand the stress. But the thing I really want to impress on you is that as you embark on your career in science, you'll do your degree in science, you may do a master's, you may do a PhD, maybe you'll do a postdoc. Perhaps you'll get your own lab and then still things won't work out. But all of that experience you have, it's all good experience. It doesn't mean that if you don't end up with your own lab, all that training in science was a waste. It means you'll just go and do something else where all that training will be useful, and you'll probably get a higher salary because you have all that training. It's just your life will take a different path, and maybe it would have been happier than the path that you originally thought. So it's all good, right? If you train as a scientist, you are going to be in demand in the modern world, and it's all good. You're never a failure. You're just doing something different.
Thank you so much for answering my question. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Blossom, for your question. Next, we have Blayton.
I would like to ask a question to Professor Philpott. This is regarding, because ma'am had explained that you were going through every phases of our life won't be that easy and it won't be that funny. But until this year of my life, I was having a really funny life with really appreciating people. But I have met some people who won't really appreciate who you are, and it would be difficult for me to attend them in everyday life. And how did you overcome those days of your life or those phases of your life? Because when it is so hard that you cannot face such people, I came to a situation where even if you are pursuing your own full interest, you cannot pursue that in the way you wanted, because the people around you are not appreciating as much as you should.
I think it depends. If your working life or your student life is so unpleasant because people are treating you in a way that is unacceptable, I mean, I don't want to advise you badly because I don't know what it's like in the Indian context, but in the British context, you know, you should stand up and say something. If people are treating you in a way that is unprofessional, you need to tell someone, at least in the UK. I mean, I don't really know how it is in India. I don't want to suggest something that would be problematic. But my experience in my first postdoc was I was just not happy. And I could see that it wasn't going to work out well. I'd signed up for 3 years, but after the first 9 months, I could see I was not happy in that laboratory. I wasn't going to get the science done that I wanted to, and I had to do something about it. And so I found somewhere else to go. I had to stay in the lab for another 9 months because it took me that long to find somewhere, and then it was a lab that was moving to Boston. But I had a plan, and having a plan about how things would get better made it much easier to deal with that day-to-day. I wasn't happy where I was, but I wouldn't stick in a job that was an open-ended job